Okay, we're picking up again where we left off last time, Genesis 27. The story now is of Isaac and his two sons, Esau and Jacob. If you remember, we had a little interlude in 26 where Isaac is dealing with Abimelech and the people of Philistia. But back in 25 was the birth of Jacob and Esau and the selling of the birthright. Do you remember how that went? How did it happen that Esau, who was the firstborn, by the end of chapter 25, is no longer? He gives up that right. How did that happen? How did that happen?
He traded it for food because he was hungry.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he comes back from he's out hunting, he's working, whatever it is, he's exhausted, and Jacob sees the opportunity. He has some nice red stew cooking for him, and Esau says, "I'll give me some of that." And he says, "You can have it as much as you want. Just give me your birthright." And it's kind of a strange story. And again, Jacob is being clever, but he's not being deceitful. He's being honest. He's making a straight up deal. It's, if I say, if you say, I want to buy your old Honda Civic, and I say you can have it for $100,000, and you pay me $100,000 for it, and then are shocked that you got a junk car, that's your fault. I mean, you knew what you're getting and what you're paying for. And Esau here is the godless one. He values this soup, his immediate appetites over the long term. Unless he can use it at the moment, it's useless to him, and he despises his birthright. Jacob is more, even though we don't know exactly where he is, his attitude is definitely more in line with that of faith, because he values the future. He values the birthright. So
why did Esau despise it, Pastor?
Well, it's saying that's how thus Esau despised his birthright. In other words, by selling it for a bowl of soup, that's his act of despising it. He treated his birthright like trash, like it was basically worthless to him. He even says that, what good is that to me? I'm going to die right now. What good is it to me? He thinks it's worthless. He will regret it, of course, and 2 chapters later, he will. And that's where we pick up in 27. So now Isaac, remember the story, Isaac and Esau and Jacob, and we're told that Isaac is old. We're not told how old, and his eyes are dim, so he can't see. And that's going to be the frame to understand this passage. Isaac is the problem right now when we begin. His eyes are dim. He cannot see. What is the problem with Isaac? Why is he, what's he doing that's wrong here in this chapter?
Like Esau, he wants to please his belly. And
yeah, what
promise of blessings to get it.
Now he wants to bless Esau, and that's going to be the big problem. And give me some reasons why he should not be blessing Esau like this, giving him that family blessing that goes along with the birthright. What are some things we've learned about Esau?
Goes against God's will. God willed that the younger of the two would be the leader.
Yes. So the word of the Lord that God gave specifically to Rebekah determined that it's Jacob that should be getting blessed. And Isaac is either unaware of it, he's ignorant of it, or he is in rebellion to that word. He insists on blessing Esau. But even if he hadn't heard the word of God to Rebekah, that the older would serve the younger, there are things that Esau did that should have disqualified him from that blessing.
Well, he gave away the birthright, for one thing.
Well, for one thing, he despised the birthright, absolutely.
He married Hittites.
Yeah. He married 2 pagan, Hittite, Canaanite wives, and they became a source of distress to both his parents. And so we clearly see Esau is a godless man. He has really become a man of Canaan. He is not a man of Abraham. And so, but Isaac wants to bless him, and it seems that Isaac's motivations are similar to Esau's. What does Isaac want in exchange for the blessing he's about to give him?
Food.
Give me a meal. Make those great meals that you used to make for me, right? Hunt some game and really make something special. And food's a big thing in this in this story.
Of course, you said that you weren't sure that Isaac knew that Jacob was the one, that Rebecca clearly did, but you weren't sure if Isaac knew. And if that's the case, then Esau, being the firstborn, would get the blessing.
Would get the blessing. So yeah, so whether he is ignorantly going against the will of God, we don't know, but clearly he should know that Esau is going against, he's in rebellion. Esau is in rebellion and he still wants to bless him. That's a crisis. And that goes along with the fact that he cannot see. That his eyes were dim so they could not see is a literal truth about him that he's having a hard time seeing, as we see in the story. But the way it's written in Genesis 27, it gives you the clue that there's a spiritual darkness that he's in as well, that he is not seeing. He's in a fog right now. And that happens to godly people. If you remember David, for a whole year, he's in a fog when he has the affair with Bathsheba and has Uriah killed. He's a man of God after his own heart, and he is in a complete fog, not seeing, and it takes a prophet like Nathan to point it out to him, and then he comes to his senses. That's like what's going to happen here. So Isaac is not in his right mind. Rebecca, listening, intervenes. And again, as I mentioned before, we oftentimes come down hard on Rebecca and Jacob for deceiving Isaac, but context is everything, and she recognizes the crisis that she's in, that her husband is about to do something that is really terrible, and she comes up with a scheme to try to stop it, because again, it's not like she has time to convince him to not do this, and there's no way that Isaac is going to simply change his plans because Rebecca tells him something. So she comes in and tries to turn the tables with him, and she has a plan. And what's her plan? What is she going to do?
Make up a stew for him that Jacob can give him and dress Jacob in Esau's clothes and put goat's hair on his arm and his neck so that he feels like Esau.
Yeah. It's an odd plan. There's so much that should go wrong with this. That he comes in with the food so quickly should be a number one sign something's not right here. I just sent him out and he comes back in with food already prepared. And he even says that. Yeah.
Sorry. I'm thinking back about what we were just saying about Esau and Jacob. Esau married Hittites. He corrupted his bloodline.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
he, Jacob was even thinking right.
Yeah.
He should have realized that.
Yeah, Isaac should have known that. And because Isaac knew that was the case. Because remember, Abraham had his servant go all the way to Haran to find a wife for Isaac. Don't take a woman from the land of Canaan. Isaac understood that. And so there's no excuse for that. He could clearly see that Esau is not the guy. He is compromised. This plan, again, should not work. That she prepares a meal for him from the 2 goats from his flock, and then that he comes with this. So Isaac can see some red flags, that it was prepared so quickly, and also that it's Jacob's voice that says, I'm here. And he recognizes it's Jacob's voice. And yet he's in such a fog, he cannot see spiritually. It should have been clear, but it's not. And I think that's part of God's doing in this as well.
I think
Keeping
he was smelling the food and just wanted to get it over with.
But again, I want to highlight Rebecca, and the way that she saves the day is, you'll notice again, she does everything. She prepares the meal. She knows how to satisfy. If Jacob were the one to prepare the meal, it would go wrong. She knows how to feed her husband and to take care of him. And she prepares the meal that will please him. She's the one who dresses Jacob and puts the hair on his skin. And she's the one who will take the curse if this goes wrong. So she really becomes like a Christ figure here of making her son acceptable to receive the blessing. And if there is a curse, she'll take the curse, just like Christ, who takes the curse for us and then dresses us and makes us acceptable, prepares the sacrifice that will be pleasing to the Father. So there's a lot of things there. So she really is not the villain of the story at all. It's Isaac who is in a bad way. So that's where we left off last time. And I believe we got to let's pick it up verse 18 to 25. We'll quick review there. So Bob Foley, would you get that for us?
So he went into his father and said, "My father." And he said, "Here I am. Who are you, my son?" Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Now sit up and eat of my game, that your soul may bless me." But Isaac said to his son, "How is it that you have found it so quickly, my son?" He answered, "Because the Lord your God granted me success." Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Please come near, that I may feel you, my son, to know whether you are really my son Esau or not." So Jacob went near Isaac, his father, who felt him, and said, "The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau." And he did not recognize him, because his hands were hairy, like his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him. He said, "Are you really my son Esau?" He answered, "I am." Then he said, "Bring it near to me, that I may eat of my son's game and bless you." So he brought it near to him, and he ate. And he brought him wine, and he drank.
Okay. Again, we talked about that last time, that there's a tension here with Isaac. There's a contradiction. There is what he's hearing. What he is hearing is telling him that who is it that is in his presence right now, based on what he hears.
Jacob.
Jacob. He says it's Jacob's voice. But what he feels when he touches him, and later on when he smells him, is, well, that's Esau. So now we have this tension. When your senses contradict one another, which one do you trust?
Senses.
Somebody's going to feed me.
Yeah, he trusts the feeling, the sensual touch of his son versus the voice, the word, and that's kind of a subtle, again, problem that we have. This is the difference between idolatry and true faith of Israel in the Old Testament is in Israel. If you notice, what's the second commandment of how we're to worship God? What's the second commandment?
Shall have no other graven images.
Yeah, don't make any images, graven images. That's a central point in idolatry. Idolatry is a very sensual religion. It's idols that you can see and touch and you can make, accompanied by feasts and orgies and all these sensualities. The one thing idolatry has no interest in is the word, because these idols, these gods, do not speak to them. They have nothing to say. And it's the exact opposite with the true faith. When God appears in the scene, when the Lord comes, it's the word of the Lord. Everything is the word of the Lord, the word of the Lord. So there's no images. It's everything the word. I'm giving you the word. Believe the word. Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. And that's the major difference between the two. And so he abandons all the sensuality of it. You're not to be going the way of idolatry. It's a word based now, where we communicate and connect with God through words. He speaks to us, and so we need ears to hear. In idolatry, their gods do not speak to them. They give them no commands, they give them no promises. It's all just, here's your idol, like a lucky charm, sacrifice to it, make it work, and maybe you'll get something you want. With God, he speaks to us. He gives commands, he gives promises. And so here, Isaac is behaving more like the pagans than the true believers, as he's guided by his sensuality, not by the voice, the word given to him. So that's where we left off last time. Let's pick it up, verse 26. I'll make this a little bit larger, and I'll lose my place again. Come down here. 26. Right there. Okay. All right. Teresa, you got that for us? 26 down to 29.
Sure. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Come near and kiss me, my son." So he came near and kissed him. And Isaac smelled the smell of his garments and blessed him and said, "See, the smell of my son is as the smell of the field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth and plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve you and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you."
Okay. This should sound a little familiar to us here. So let's go into this. So Isaac comes in, Jacob comes in, and he comes near, he kisses him. And then we have the blessing of Isaac. And what is the blessing? What does he say to him? Well, he first says, the smell of my son, the smell of the Lord is blessed. And verse 28 and 29 tells us, what does the blessing say? First thing?
May God give you the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth and plenty of grain and wine.
Okay. So, yeah, may God, this is a prayer of prosper you with the fatness of the earth, the best of the earth, and the dew of heaven, the plenty of rain and the grain and wine and all the prosper you in the lands. Okay, so that's the first part. And then the second part, he says,
May people serve you and bow down
okay.
to you.
All right, let peoples serve you and nations bow down to you.
Right.
Okay. And including
Your brothers.
including your brothers. And may your mother's sons bow down to you. Now it's interesting because there's only two of them, so I'm not sure what Flora, what do you think about that when he says your brothers? But I thought Esau only had one brother. He says brothers.
I think he's, just like they say, you were the son of David, even though you're 4 generations after him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're talking about he's being blessed here. So they said that all the nations would be blessed through your seed. That was the promise Abraham was given.
Yeah.
So I think that they're talking about, ultimately, they're talking about Christ. He's going to be the ultimate blessing. And through, like you said, Jacob is God's man. And through this line, all the nations will be blessed and they're going to worship you.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that the brothers would basically definitely include like all the descendants of Abraham, because there's always that question of who is the one? Who is the one? And it's clear now, Isaac, even though he is out of his mind in one sense, it's sort of like a double reversal. When you confuse a confused man, he does the right thing somehow. It's almost like somebody did a little joke of I'd like to do my impersonation of a drunk man walking during an earthquake, and he just walks in a straight line like a normal person, So it's sort of, it's sort of like that. It's like it reverses he's intending to do something evil, and through an act of deception actually does the right thing and says it's the right person. So however it happens, including your brothers, all this innocent of it. So basically the point being is, so there's no confusion now. It's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's the order. Those are your three. Not Abraham, Isaac, and Esau. It's not Abraham, Ishmael, and one of his descendants. It's Abraham, then Isaac, and now Jacob. And it's very clear to us here when Isaac gives him this blessing. And so let all the other brothers, all those who would claim the connection, they're going to bow down to you. And then he says, the final thing he says,
Would have been brothers from concubines.
we're not told of any concubines from Isaac. As far as we know, Isaac just has two, Esau and Jacob.
But there's something else that I had heard, and I thought it was a little strange until my sister-in-law was actually working with two people from Kyrgyzstan last year. And even to this day, they do not have a word for cousins. When she asked them, well, what do you call them? I call them brothers and
Yeah.
sisters.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that, I believe, is the Catholic defense for the perpetual virginity of Mary. That in the New Testament, in the Gospels, it says Jesus' brothers, and the Roman Catholic teaching is that those were not his brothers from Mary. Those would have been cousins or other family members, was their case.
Yeah, the thing that surprised me was she had brought them over. They worked for her. She had brought them over to our place on the lake, and she was explaining to them that, the whole family gets to use this, all of our cousins. And they said to her, what are cousins?
Yeah.
And this is just last year.
That's really
And-
interesting.
And they said, she explained to them what cousins were. And she said, what do you call them? They said, that would be our brothers and our sisters.
Yeah, that phrase of brothers is, we use it today in so many ways. I know like in the inner city community, when I was on the basketball team with all the black players, they were always the brothers. They're the brothers, and they saw themselves as like a family.
Yeah.
Even though there was no relation, they were
But
family.
at least they had a word for cousins,
Well, yeah, yes,
Well,
Uh,
even in Christian, I don't even know how to, social circles, we call each other's brothers and sisters, right?
yeah. So anytime you refer to your people, now it can be a very specific blood relatives from the same parents, or more generally, Jesus is the brothers, my people. I think, I'm not sure if Paul refers to them as my brothers, but yeah. And so that's why as Christians, we also refer to one another as brothers and sisters. We are a new people now. We're a family. So in any case, the next part is, though, very familiar to us. What's the last part of the blessing?
Cursed be everyone who curse you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you.
Cursed be those who curse you, and blessed is everyone who blesses you. And that was what was told to Abraham by the Lord. It was also told to Isaac, and now it's being presented to Jacob. He carries on that place. So everything, God's curse and blessings are going to come down to their relationship with you now, Jacob. Those who bless you will be blessed. Those who curse you will be cursed. And that's going to be the string. God always has a man on earth who he is for, and everyone who relates properly with this person is blessed. Those who do not are cursed. So first it's Abraham, and we saw that. And now we saw it with Isaac. And now we're going to see it with Jacob. And then it will continue down the line, that there are those whom God will bless who are in that line. It'll become the nation of Israel. And ultimately, it brings us down to Christ. Christ is the fulfillment of all of this. Cursed is everyone who curses Jesus Christ. Blessed is everyone who blesses him. And that's sort of the fulfillment of that covenant.
I don't recall seeing trying to think. Did the blessing that Abraham would have given Isaac?
I don't think Abraham ever gave a blessing to Isaac. God does.
Yeah,
God, the Lord appears to him. I don't know that Abraham,
that's not a blessing.
we have a recorded blessing of him. Do you guys remember anything of that? I don't.
No, I don't remember.
The Lord does. The Lord does speak directly to Isaac and gives him the same blessing he gave to Abraham. And in Abraham's case, it becomes clear, though, through his actions, that Isaac's the one, because he sends off Ishmael and all the other sons, and it's very clear that Isaac is the one. In this case, there is some question about this. Is it Jacob or Esau? They have equal claim, and Esau really has a greater claim to it. But now through these actions and now Isaac's blessing, it's becoming very clear who's right. Okay. All right. Where did we leave off here? Let's see. Elizabeth, would you get the next paragraph for us? Now,
As soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, when Jacob had scarcely gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, Esau his brother came in from his hunting. He also prepared delicious food and brought it to his father. And he said to his father, "Let my father arise and eat of his son's game, that you may bless me." His father Isaac said to him, "Who are you?" He answered, "I am your son, your firstborn Esau." Then Isaac trembled very violently and said, "Who is it then that hunted game and brought it to me? And I ate it all before you came, and I have blessed him. Yes, he shall be blessed." And as soon as Esau heard the words of his father, he cried out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry and said to his father, "Bless me, even me also, O my father." But he said, "Your brother came deceitfully, and he has taken away your blessing." Esau said, "Is it not rightly named Jacob? Is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has cheated me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing." Then he said, "Have you not reserved the blessing for me?" Isaac answered and said to Esau, "Behold, I have made him lord over you, and all his brothers I have given to him for servants, and with grain and wine I have sustained him. What then can I do for you, my son?" Esau said to his father, "Have you but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father." And Esau lifted up his voice and wept.
okay. Tragic.
Mm,
So Isaac has just finished blessing. After blessing Jacob, what happens?
he discovers the deceit.
Yeah, after Isaac blesses Jacob, let's go through this text a little bit here.
Sure.
He's scarcely gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, and so Esau, his brother, Esau comes in from hunting.
Yeah.
All right, he has prepared the meal. Remember the difference. So in Jacob's case, it's so frustrating to us because it doesn't seem fair, but it's the way of grace here. Rebecca does everything for Jacob.
Mhm.
He barely lifts a finger and he gets the blessing. Poor Esau has to hunt for the meal, and then he has to prepare the delicious food. And he brings it to his father. He's a man of works here, right? He does everything. He certainly deserves something. And what does he get for it, right?
Nothing.
What's that?
I said, nothing, nada, nil.
Nothing, right?
Mm.
And so all of Esau's works fail him.
Mhm.
Doesn't accomplish it. No matter how hard he works, he will not get the blessing. And why? Well, because he has no faith. How do you know he has no faith? How do you know Esau has no faith?
For one thing, he went off and married those 2 pagan women.
Yep.
Mm.
He despises his birthright and he despises the word of God. The will of God. He goes his own way. and he thinks he can have it, or you think you can go your way, and if he works hard enough, he can get the blessing. It's like, no, it's a grace is by faith, by faith. There's no faith in this man. He is just works. He does all the things that thinks he needs to do, and he loses the blessing, and he lost that blessing years earlier when he abandoned his faith and despised his birthright. His father Isaac, now, how does Isaac respond? So when Isaac realizes that he blessed Jacob and not Esau, what is his response?
My blessing's done. I've given it already. I can't give it to you.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's the
That's
conclusion
what
of it.
he tells.
What's his first response?
Trembling violently.
Yeah, he trembles very violently. What does
Realized
that
he was deceived.
He's deceived. Yeah. I mean, this is this is a crisis right now for him. He's in turmoil over this.
You think he realizes that because he trusted his senses, he blew it?
Yeah, let's take a look. What gives you that idea?
Because he's trembling. It's his fault that this happened.
Yes.
It's his fault. He listened to his senses by touch and smell because he didn't have eyesight. He heard Jacob's voice, but he didn't deny that sense.
Yeah.
But he just smelled the food and was hungry.
There's an interesting thing that happens here. He has been deceived. But look at what he says. He says, I have blessed Jacob, right? And what's his final word on that? In verse 33.
He shall be blessed.
Yes, and he shall be blessed.
I
That
think it seems to me like you have to interject ourselves into this culture a little bit, because a blessing to us as US citizens doesn't seem that big a deal. But in this culture, there's only one blessing that you get passed on, and it's huge.
yeah. And it's a covenant blessing. Yeah, go ahead.
Why can't he just speak to God and say, you know, they deceived me and I'd like to bless my son Esau?
Isaac still is a man of faith, even though he's had a moment of deception. In a sense, what's happened here, when he says, I have blessed Jacob, so he makes the mistake and he realizes that he's been deceived and he has blessed Jacob. The one he intended to bless was Esau. But you'll notice he immediately says, yes, and he shall be blessed. He realizes that, in a sense, let me put it this way, Isaac has been deceived out of his deception. Isaac was deceived in wanting to bless Esau. He's deceiving himself in thinking that he can go against the will of God, that he can bless someone who is clearly should be cursed. And he's going against that. And God, in a sense, tricks him out of it. He deceives him out of his deception. If that makes sense. Maybe deceives him out of his self-deception. How about that?
It's almost like either he did know all along that it was supposed to be Jacob, or he at least knew that because Esau had married these other women, that it shouldn't have been Esau. And it's like, okay, I've done this. Yes, it's going to stay that way.
Yeah, I would say this is the moment of Isaac's repentance. He corrects himself. Yes, and he shall be blessed. He now knows, this is important. When he blessed him before, he was being deceived. And you know, any contract, any covenant can be nullified if it's under deception. You know that, right? So if you marry someone under false pretenses, that marriage can be annulled because it's a false marriage. Well, you thought you were marrying such and such a person, and now we realize it's all a fraud. So therefore, this contract is no good. It's no longer binding.
They
That's the
just
problem.
identified as my wife.
So so now it's like, okay, Isaac could say, I made a mistake. I blessed the wrong person. That blessing is null and void because I never intended it for him. Therefore, it's no good. But you'll notice he doesn't do that. He says, ah, yes, and he doubles down on it. He realizes, I was deceived. I blessed the wrong person. Now I realize I blessed the right person. That makes sense. He's come to his senses, and that's important because if he doesn't say that, then there's this doubt that Jacob stole the blessing that's not rightfully his. But Isaac, when he's of clear mind now, he knows it was Jacob, and he affirms he's the one. I blessed him, that he will be blessed. So Isaac affirms the blessing for Jacob. If he doesn't say that, this is Jacob's blessing is illegitimate. You know, it's a fraud. But now that he's realized, and we're going to see that later on with Jacob, where Jacob's going to get deceived, if you remember later on. And he wants to, remember how Jacob was deceived?
Yeah,
he got the
wife.
Wrong wife.
Jacob wanted to marry Rachel, and he is deceived because God's plan is that he marry Leah, and the Messiah will come through Leah, not through Rachel. And Leah's the one, but Jacob wants Rachel for similar reasons. She's prettier, right? She satisfies his sensual desires more than Leah does. But Leah is God's woman. Same thing here. Esau is much more pleasing to his father than Jacob, but Jacob is the Lord's man, and Isaac has to submit his will to the Lord's will. And it's through this act of deception that he is awakened to it, and he realizes, and now he repents. And this is how God works. He humbles us, he breaks us, and your will be done. So Esau is not taking this easily, is he? Now let's see what happens with Esau.
He plays the victim.
Yeah, Esau's response to this fiasco here. What does he say?
Took away my birthright, and now he's taking away my blessing.
Yeah, so first he says, well, first let's talk about what he does first. Verse 34.
He cries out.
Yeah. Cries out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry. Esau is a cautionary tale for us. Hebrews wants us to read it that way. Do not be godless like Esau. And basically, as Christians, he says, don't indulge in sexual morality. Don't be godless like Esau, who sold his birthright for a bowl of soup. And even though afterwards he begged and pleaded, he couldn't get it. And so this is the scene here. It's so dramatic. He sold his birthright. He should have never gotten the blessing, and it was taken from him. And now he wants it. Now he values it. Why does he value the birthright all of a sudden? Because he thinks his dad's about to die. Right? Now the birthright matters. He thinks he's about to get the inheritance, and now it's stolen from him. And now he cries out bitterly, and he says, do not be worldly, do not be godless like him. We have a birthright. We don't want to be those who sell our eternal inheritance, the eternal blessings promised in Christ, for a bowl of soup from the world, selling out our values and our convictions just to be accepted, just to be popular, just to be wealthy and prosperous in this life, to be loved by the world, for that immediate gratification, because the time is coming when we will stand before God. And Jesus said, what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul. And what will happen? What will those in hell be doing? He says they'll be cast out into outer darkness where they'll be what?
Gnashing their teeth.
Weeping and gnashing of teeth is exactly what you see Esau doing here. This crying out, was weeping, this gnashing of teeth, this bitter cry, begging for a blessing. And what does Isaac tell him? But he said, Isaac says to him,
Your brother came deceitfully and has taken away your blessing.
but there is none. Yeah, no blessing. Sorry. No blessing.
So Pastor, is the birthright more of the inheritance and the blessing is, a blessing for your life go into the future? Or I'm trying to differentiate between the blessing and the birthright.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're connected. They're going to be connected, and the blessing is sort of the verbal affirmation of the birthright. He's
Part of your birthright includes the blessing.
Yeah, it's all connected. It's all sort of part of the covenants. The blessing is the promise of this is what's going to come for you, and then when his birthright is when he actually receives it. So think of it this way: the inheritance is the estate that you're going to take possession of. The birthright, we could say, the inheritance that you will now have the right to receive that inheritance. There'll be a part, the will kind of lay out what it is that you're going to receive. So he hasn't received any of this yet. He receives the blessing, which is sort of a promise that you will receive those things when the time comes. The birthright is simply your right to receive these things, that you're the proper heir, is your birthright. And the birthright is what qualifies you to receive the blessing. And the blessing is just the first declaration that you will receive at some point the full inheritance. So if that makes sense, it's kind of like an inheritance. You have heirs that are going to receive your estate, everything you have when you pass on. And they're clearly there by virtue they're born into your family, but then you can declare it in your will officially. So there's no question that they are the ones receiving it all. And then they're just waiting for the time when you knock off and they can take it all, right? That sounds crude, but that's... Okay.
That actually explains birthright and blessing. Just the will is the blessing expressed, and the birthright is by virtue of the fact that they're your kid.
Yeah, it's all wrapped up. I mean, he has the birthright. So by right of birth, he should get the blessing, but it doesn't have to be that way. Birthright means he's just the oldest and he should be getting it. But people have done that where they've written people out of their wills who should get it and they don't, for whatever reason. They give it to someone else. Which is what happens here. Isaac still, in a sense, Esau still has the right because he was born first, but he forfeited that. And then Isaac could have nullified that if he wanted to. He doesn't have to listen to Jacob's plea. He could say, sorry, I give it to him I want. I suppose he could do that, but in any case, we pick it up here. So he burns the blessing. He's begging for a blessing, and then he complains, right? Esau says, what does Esau say about Jacob?
He cheated.
He's been named right, the deceiver.
He's complained that his brother has cheated him these 2 times. Now, here's the question. Has he been cheated?
The first time he clearly did it on his own. He said, yep, that means nothing to me. Give me the food.
Yes. And I would argue, so the first time, that was a fair exchange. I mean, Esau made the deal, right? I can't help it if you're stupid. It's not my problem, right? First time, that was not deception. Esau was wicked. Okay. The second time, did Jacob cheat him out of the blessing the second time?
Yes.
If you tie the blessing to the birthright, then no. Because if the birthright, I'm sorry, if the blessing is a fulfillment of the birthright, an oral, then it should have been Jacob's anyways.
Yeah, that's a good point, isn't it? Isn't it true? Isn't it true that Esau should not have, how should I say this?
He shouldn't have expected it.
Should not have expected or even should not have received a blessing. He sold it now. And now you're going to go claim on it? You're going to, even though it was Isaac's idea, Esau should have told, if Isaac didn't know about it, to not have accepted this blessing. It wasn't his now. That blessing was for the firstborn. He's no longer that. So it's in one sense, it's Esau and Isaac who are trying to cheat Jacob out of this.
Hmm.
So that's the kind of thing. So if someone steals something from you, and then you go break into their home and steal it back, who's the thief?
You will, the second person will go to court, not in good shape.
You know,
Really?
in one sense, yeah, I mean, you shouldn't do that, right? By the law, I guess you would be, and let me put it this way, more carefully. Here's a better example. But you're fighting with your sibling over a toy, right? It's your toy, you're playing with it. It was given to you, and your younger brother takes it out of your hand and runs off and starts playing with it. And you go in and take it back. Who's the thief? Who's the cheat? Yeah, maybe you were rude in taking it back, but he should have never taken that. That was not his to take. It was not his to take. Esau is wrong. And he's putting it onto Jacob as if Jacob is the problem here. And he can make a case for it because in his perspective, he's been cheated twice. He doesn't see himself as the sinner here, which is why, remember how the story ends? Well, we'll get there. What does Esau want to do at the end of the story? Do you remember how it ends? No?
He wants to kill him.
He
Yeah,
wants to kill him. He
Yeah.
wants to kill his brother. He is so full of bitterness. He does not see himself as the sinner. He feels cheated, self-pitying. He's weeping bitterly. Do not be like Esau. Do not be like Esau. He is a warning for us.
but Jacob will put the women in front of him. So Esau can't get to him.
I'm not saying Jacob's perfect here, but Esau is clearly, it's like he is a cautionary tale. Do not be godless like Esau. So he lifts up
Wouldn't you say that Esau represents the flesh and Jacob the spirit?
Yeah, to a degree, you could say that. I mean, again, at this stage of the game, Jacob's got a lot of growing to do. And there's a lot about him that's not inspiring and we don't want to make excuses for. But even so, we could say this, I think you're correct, that Jacob values the things that are truly valuable.
Yeah.
You cannot deny that. He values the birthright and he values the blessing and he wants it at any cost. And at least he has his values correct. Esau does not value the truly valuable. He values the immediate. He values the fleshly things. So yeah, I think you can make a case. Esau is, he's got issues, man. but he will come around a little bit, I guess. Esau does, he begs for one more blessing. Blessing from Isaac. Okay. Bless me also, Father. Can I get a consolation of any kind? I did make you some nice food here. Can I get a consolation prize? Isaac's blessing to him. Well, let's read that. Let's see where we leave off here. Bob Thomas, you want to get that 39 and 40?
Then Isaac his father answered and said to him, Behold, away from the fatness of the earth shall your dwelling be, and away from the dew of heaven on high. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you shall break his yoke from your neck.
Wow. I'm going to call this Isaac's blessing for Jacob, for Esau, I should say. What is his blessing, so to speak? Not much of a blessing.
No, it's not.
I was gonna say.
You will be away from the dews of heaven, from the fatness of the earth, shall be your dwelling. Okay. You dwelling away from the blessings of the Lord. You can see it where it's similar to when Abraham sends off all of his other sons, if you remember, sends them away from Isaac. He gives them gifts and sends them away. This is kind of what Isaac is doing with Esau. He's sending him away, but he is giving him a little gift, I guess. What does it say in verse 40 about him?
You live by the sword and serve your brother.
Okay, you shall live by your sword. What does that mean, to live by your sword?
You'll be a soldier.
Protect himself.
Yeah. This will not be a peaceful kingdom here. You will have war. You will not have, you're going to have a sword. There will not be, and it's true. I mean, Edom, the nation that comes from Esau, was just constantly in troubles and skirmishes and fights and so forth, and eventually conquered. Of warfare, not peace, and you will serve your brother. Okay, and that's the part of it is that fulfills. Notice, does that sound familiar to you? You shall serve your brother.
That's the same, that's the other side of the same blessing he gave to Jacob.
Yeah, it's the other side of that. And it's also exactly what the Lord said to Rebekah. The older will serve the younger. And so Isaac is coming now in line. He's speaking the word of God. So this is God's word now to Esau. That's the same word he gave to Rebekah. Now Isaac speaks to him. But he gives him one hope. What is it? What is the hope?
That he can break away from Jacob.
Yes, you shall break his yoke from your neck. That's an interesting phrase. I wonder if I have any notes on that one, what that means. When you grow restless, you shall break his yoke from your neck. I don't know if anybody has a note on that in their study Bibles. I'm going to look up real quick.
Yeah, right here. From the Reformation Study Bible, it says, see note 2523. From time to time, Edom was able to break free of Israelite domination. In addition, Herod the Great was a descendant of Esau. That doesn't tell me about it.
Yeah. So this is talking about the nation of Edom, which is the descendants of Edom. Edom's relationship to Israel. The Edomites are the descendants of Esau. They're going to be a big part in the history of Israel throughout the Old Testament. And there's going to be tensions between them. And there are times when they will be serving Israel as slaves. But at some point they will break the yoke from them. And it's true. King Herod from the Bible, the one who wanted to kill Jesus, he was an Edomite. He was of a descendant of Esau. So, but kind of prophesies this, that there'll be times when there will be times of freedom for Esau's descendants.
I have a note
Yeah,
in
go
my Bible that takes me over to 2 Kings 8:20-22. And it starts out, in his days, Edom revolted from under the hand of Judah and made a king over themselves.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's what it's saying. Yeah.
2 Kings what?
Say
What was
again?
what was the passage? 2 Kings?
Oh, sorry, 2 Kings 8:20-22. And 22 says, yet Edom revolted from under the hand of Judah unto this day.
Great. Yeah, so we can see that kind of that prophecy coming true. It's a complicated relationship. You're going to get a sense of it this isn't the last we see of Esau. They're going to have a moment of reconciliation later on. So even there's kind of a breaking free from the bitterness toward his brother and so forth. But we'll get to that another time. All right, so there we go. That's we still have a little bit more to do with Esau. Shall we? Well, we can finish the chapter. We got like 7 minutes. Why don't we just try to finish the chapter, and we'll pick it up in the next chapter next week. So where do we leave off here? Rob, you want to finish us off here? 41 down to the end.
Okay. Now Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. And Esau said to himself, the days of mourning for my father are approaching. Then I will kill my brother Jacob. But the words of Esau, her oldest son, were told to Rebekah. So she sent and called Jacob, her youngest son, and said to him, behold, your brother Esau comforts himself about you by planning to kill you. Now, therefore, my son, obey my voice. Arise, flee to Laban, my brother in Haran, and stay with him a while until your brother's fury turns away, until your brother's anger turns away from you, and he forgets what you have done to him. Then I will send and bring you from there. Why should I be bereft of you both in one day? Then Rebekah said to Isaac, I loathe my life because of the Hittite women. If Jacob marries one of the Hittite women like these, one of the women of the land, what good will my life be to me?
Okay. All right. So that's the conclusion of the chapter here. We're just a couple notes on it. Esau hated Jacob. Why did he hate him?
Because he got the blessing and the
Yeah.
the birthright.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, well, he says specifically here, it's because of the blessing. You'll notice this is very similar to a story we've heard before in the Bible of two brothers, and one receiving a blessing, the other not so much. And the solution to the problem was, let me kill him.
Cain and
Cain
Abel.
and Abel.
This is just like Cain, and plan to kill, like Cain.
Mm,
See this in a cursed be Cain. This is the
no, no, I was told.
oops. So yeah, because of the blessing, and he says his plan is, what does he mean by the days of mourning for my father are approaching?
Father's gonna die.
Okay. So basically, after Isaac dies, I will kill Jacob. He's not going to do it right away, partly because he doesn't want to grieve his father, or give him trouble. But also, it's like once his father dies, then he can kill his brother and the inheritance will be his. He can take it for himself. If he kills his brother now, Isaac, was no way that Isaac and Rebekah would bless him and give him the inheritance. They would probably find another person to give it to. So he's going to plan, wait till he die, wait till the old man kicks the bucket, then we'll take care of that annoying little brother and I'll take everything.
That Esau said that to himself. but then it says that the words of her oldest son were told to Rebecca. So if he said it to himself, was he the one that told Rebecca?
No, no, he would have, it would have been, remember, there's a lot of people there. Remember how many people were living with Abraham? I
Oh,
mean, probably thousands. So there's all kinds of servants. They're very wealthy. One of the servants probably would have overheard him mumbling to himself. You know, that's the thing about madmen. They tend to monologue. You know, the evil villains, they kind of talk out loud their plans. You know,
Soliloquies.
like in all the superhero movies, the villain always has to monologue and talk about his plans. And so someone hears him say this and reports it to Rebecca. So he says, okay, so she gets the news. Rebecca gets wind of the plan, and what does she do?
She tells Jacob, run like heck, boy, and don't look back.
Yeah, go to Haran. Go see my brother Laban. We've met him before.
Interesting, because the servant was not to go to Haran to get a wife for Isaac. Now in desperation, she tells him to go to Haran.
Yeah, stay there until your brother's fury turns away. She knows at some point, give us a little time, he'll calm down, hopefully. And then he forgets what you've done to him. You know, things come up in life that kind of soften the blow, and he'll maybe be able to let it go. Then I'll send back for you. Okay. I don't want to be bereft of you both in one day. Notice what she said, I'll be bereft of you both, because if he kills you, he's going to go on the run at that point. He's going to take it and run, and there's no way that he can abide peacefully amongst us if he kills you. So I'll lose both of you in one day. Rebecca then goes to Isaac. So she gives commands to the plan for Jacob. And then what does she say to Isaac?
I load
basically
the
that
light.
she's. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Basically, she's making an excuse why she's sending Jacob away, that she loathes these Hittite women, and
Yeah.
if Jacob stays there, he'll end up marrying someone, and then her life will mean nothing.
Yeah, she can't just say to Isaac, Jacob needs to go because Esau wants to kill him. You know, she can't say that. That's distressing for the guy. It's going to be a mess. The guy's, they think he's dying. They think the man is dying. He's going to be alive for a little bit longer, but they see him. You don't want to give him that burden. And then, you know, the other part is it becomes this huge drama, because now you think Esau is going to admit to, yeah, that was my plan. I'm going to kill my brother. He's going to deny it. So it just becomes this mess. So Rebecca's very shrewd. And what reason she just wants to get her son out of there, get him up to Laban. So how does she present it again?
She loathes the Hittite women.
Yeah.
One son's already married, two of them. If this
Yeah.
one does, then
And there'll be
And,
lineage.
and Isaac will agree with her. We know that he does, because he was distressed when Esau married the Hittite women. It told us that he was not happy about that. So Jacob, don't let Jacob marry a Hittite. Send him. What could my life to be? All right, so in the next chapter, we'll see that Isaac will take it from there. So Isaac will implement her idea. So therefore, she hints at sending him off to Haran, which Isaac will pick up the hint in the next chapter. This reminds me of a scene in. Did you ever see My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
I was just thinking that same thing.
Right. And he says, you know, the husband is the head, but the wife is the neck. and she turns it any way she pleases. And she convinces her husband that it was his idea all along to do these things. And that's kind of what's happening here. She's convincing Isaac. So it will be Isaac's command. And Rebecca is very shrewd. She really is a noble woman. She's a remarkable type, and kind of working behind the scenes in a way that's respectful to her husband, and yet gets things accomplished that need to happen. She's not a controlling woman, you'll notice.
Mm.
What is she trying to do here? Is she trying to control her son? She's trying to save his life.
Right.
You know, she intervenes not in a controlling way, but in trying to restore order so that God's blessing goes on the one whom God will bless. And she is trying to save the life of her son. She's really quite a mediator. So again, I in my mind, she's the hero of the story. I mean, God is the hero of every story, but in this case, he's using her to accomplish his wonderful purposes.
It's kind of I don't know, funnier. In one respect, if God had just had Jacob come out first, all of this goes away.
I want to address that here. Why doesn't he do it that way?
Well, down the road, Joseph's sons will not be, it's the second of Joseph's sons that will be the God's man. So
Why does God always choose the younger sons, it seems, or at least in the beginning?
'Cause it's the less of
listen.
it's not the stronger one.
Yeah, it's by grace. That's what God's purpose of grace might stand. So you understand this is of God, not of man. And so he will not be bound by the rules of men. And he oftentimes chooses the younger over the older, specifically because the younger is less deserving of it. So it's by grace so that no one can boast. I think that's a lot of the themes that we've been seeing here.
David was out herding the sheep.
Yeah, David's the youngest. Everyone's the young. I mean, Cain and Abel's younger. Ishmael and Isaac's the younger, all along the way. So, all right, we're going to stop recording here.